The Trump administration just shut down the only federal office investigating why Black veterans are denied disability benefits at dramatically higher rates than white veterans. The numbers are government documented. Between 2010 and 2020, white veterans' applications were approved at rates 3% to 22% higher than Black veterans with the exact same injuries, the same service-connected disabilities. Different outcomes based on race. February 14, 2025. Employees of the Office of Equity Assurance received one email. Positions terminated immediately. The office was being liquidated. Within hours, it was gone. The numbers are stark, and they're documented by the government's own research. Between 2010 and 2020, white male veterans' applications for disability benefits were approved at rates 3% to 22% higher than Black male veterans for the same medical conditions. Hearing loss, limb impairment, post-traumatic stress disorder, the same injuries, the same service-connected disabilities, dramatically different approval rates based on the veteran's race. This isn't speculation. This is from a 2023 Government Accountability Office report, the federal government's own watchdog admitting there's a systemic problem. Think about what that means in practice. A Black veteran and a white veteran both serve in Iraq. Both develop PTSD from combat. Both apply for disability benefits they earned through their service. The white veteran is 10% more likely to have his claim approved. Same injury, same documentation, different outcome based on race. That's not a few isolated cases. That's the pattern across tens of thousands of claims over a decade. The Office of Equity Assurance was created specifically to address this documented injustice. It investigated individual cases where veterans were wrongly denied benefits. It studied the patterns to identify where the system was failing. It worked to eliminate the disparities that the VA itself acknowledged existed. It wasn't a diversity program. It wasn't political correctness. It was a desperately needed office trying to ensure that all veterans, regardless of race, received the benefits they earned through their service. And now it's gone. The VA's justification for eliminating the office would be laughable if it wasn't so insulting. VA spokesperson Peter Kasperovitz said that newly installed VA Secretary Douglas Collins treats all veterans and beneficiaries fairly and equally, so the Office of Equity Assurance is no longer needed. Read that again. Because the new secretary says he treats everyone fairly, we don't need the office that investigates whether people are actually being treated fairly. Because he says the problem is solved, we don't need to check if the problem is solved. The logic is absurd. It's like a police department eliminating its internal affairs division and saying, "Our new chief promises not to break the law, so we don't need anyone investigating police misconduct anymore." The entire point of oversight is that you can't just trust people to police themselves. You need independent investigation. You need data. You need accountability. The Office of Equity Assurance provided all of that, and the Trump administration eliminated it. Kasperovitz added that the money saved by closing the office will be redirected to improve healthcare, benefits, and services for veterans, all of whom we treat fairly and equally. But here's what he wouldn't say. Whether the VA will continue to study racial disparities at all. He wouldn't commit to continuing the research. He wouldn't promise that anyone else would take over the office's work. He just declared the problem solved by executive fiat and shut down the office that was documenting that the problem very much still exists. This isn't happening in isolation. The Office of Equity Assurance was eliminated as part of Trump's broader purge of anything related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. But several VA sources made clear that this office wasn't exclusively focused on race. It handled cases for veterans denied proper benefits for reasons of age, religion, gender identity, sexual orientation, and geographic location. It was ensuring that all veterans, regardless of who they were or where they lived, received equal treatment. Eliminating it doesn't just hurt Black veterans. It hurts every veteran who might face discrimination in the benefits process. But make no mistake, Black veterans will be hit hardest, because Black veterans are the ones who have been systematically denied benefits at higher rates for decades. The Center for Minority Veterans, which worked alongside the Office of Equity Assurance, raised concerns about Black veterans' lower approval rates to VA leadership 5 times between 2013 and 2018. 5 times they documented the problem. 5 times they demanded action. And even after the Office of Equity Assurance was finally created to address these concerns, the disparities continued. That's how entrenched this problem is. It's not a few biased claims processors. It's systemic. It's built into how the VA evaluates claims, and fixing it requires constant vigilance, ongoing investigation, and dedicated resources, all of which just got eliminated. The Black Veterans Project has been documenting these disparities for years through Freedom of Information Act requests. Their data shows that the VA is far more likely to reject applications for service-connected disabilities by Black veterans than white veterans. This evidence bolstered an ongoing lawsuit filed by the National Veterans Council for legal redress against the federal government. The lawsuit is still pending. The evidence is still mounting. The problem is still happening, but the office investigating it is gone. Congressman Mark Takano, the ranking member of the House Committee on Veterans Affairs, didn't mince words about what this means. He called the closure excessive and reckless. He said, "The closure of the OEA will undoubtedly have disastrous effects on the care we offer veterans. This office was making it easier for minority veterans to access care and benefits. Its closure will directly impact the care and benefits received by minority veterans." Takano knows what he's talking about. He's been tracking these issues for years. He's seen the data. He knows that without dedicated oversight, these disparities don't fix themselves. They get worse, because when no one is watching, when no one is investigating, when no one is holding the system accountable, systemic discrimination thrives. Richard Brookshire, co-founder of the Black Veterans Project, was even more direct. It's a first step toward gutting the second-largest agency in our federal government. The consequences will be dire, wide-reaching, and deadly. Deadly. That's not hyperbole. When veterans are wrongly denied disability benefits, they lose access to health care. They lose income they need to survive. They face financial ruin, homelessness, and in some cases, they die waiting for benefits they earned, but were denied. The stakes here aren't abstract. They're life and death. Senator Raphael Warnock of Georgia introduced the legislation that created the Office of Equity Assurance. His statement on its closure captured the betrayal. "I have always said our veterans are the best among us, and I believe those who fight for us should not have to fight with us to get the care and support they need." Donald Trump's shuttering of the VA Office of Equity Assurance is a devastating blow to our commitment to ensuring all veterans receive the quality care and benefits they have earned. Warnock continued, "Equality in care is not about giving some people an advantage. It is about honoring an obligation we have to all those who served our country." I was proud to introduce and pass the legislation that made it possible to address disparities experienced by veterans in accessing vital benefits, particularly for historically marginalized and underserved veterans of color. But because this administration sees anything resembling diversity as a threat, they are gutting an institution that is meant to protect those who put their lives on the line in defense of our freedoms. That last line is crucial. This administration sees anything resembling diversity as a threat. That's why they're not just eliminating programs labeled as DEI, they're eliminating offices that investigate racial discrimination. They're removing accountability mechanisms that document unequal treatment. They're shutting down the offices that make it harder to discriminate. The Office of Equity Assurance wasn't giving Black veterans special treatment. It was trying to ensure they got equal treatment. It was investigating why, when the data showed clear disparities, those disparities existed, and how to eliminate them. That's not preferential treatment. That's basic fairness. And the Trump administration decided basic fairness is too much to ask for. Since Trump took office, the VA has systematically eliminated everything related to equity and diversity. A web page detailing the VA's work to address equity and diversity was scrubbed from the website. In January 2025, the administration fired the heads of internal advisory groups formed to address the concerns and needs of minority and female veterans. One of those groups was the Center for Minority Veterans, which had been working in conjunction with the Office of Equity Assurance. The new director of the Center for Minority Veterans is Mariela Roca, a former Republican congressional hopeful. It's unclear what specific strategies she'll pursue. What is clear is that the office that was actually investigating disparities and trying to fix them is gone, and the advisory groups that raised concerns have new leadership appointed by an administration that doesn't believe systemic discrimination exists. The 12 employees whose positions were terminated aren't taking this lying down. On March 14, 2025, they filed a lawsuit in federal court. They're suing under the Administrative Procedure Act, claiming their terminations were arbitrary, capricious, and an abuse of discretion. They're claiming First Amendment violations because they were fired based on their perceived viewpoints about diversity and equity. They're claiming due process violations because they were given no notice and no chance to challenge their terminations. And they're claiming equal protection violations because they were treated differently than employees in the VA's Companion Office of Health Equity based on their perceived beliefs. That last point is revealing. The VA has an Office of Health Equity that apparently survived the purge, but the Office of Equity Assurance, which focused on benefits rather than health care, was eliminated. Why the distinction? What makes investigating disparities in healthcare acceptable, but investigating disparities in benefits problematic? The answer seems to be that the Office of Equity Assurance was documenting uncomfortable truths that the Trump administration doesn't want documented. The elimination of the Office of Equity Assurance is part of a broader VA restructuring that's devastating. The VA is planning to cut 80,000 employees by the end of 2025, bringing the total workforce from about 470,000 down to roughly 398,000. That's a 15% reduction in the federal agency responsible for providing health care and benefits to millions of veterans. The administration claims these cuts won't affect health care or benefits to veterans. But how can you cut 80,000 employees from an agency already struggling with long wait times and claim it won't affect services? Workers who were assigned to the Office of Equity Assurance have been placed on administrative leave pending possible reassignment. But sources familiar with the moves made clear. But even if they are reassigned, it won't be to the OEA. It's definitely gone. The office isn't being reorganized or renamed. It's being eliminated completely. The work it was doing isn't being transferred elsewhere. It's simply stopping. What happens now to Black veterans who are wrongly denied benefits? Who investigates their cases? Who studies the patterns to identify where the system is failing? Who holds the VA accountable for ensuring equal treatment? The answer appears to be no one. The Trump administration has decided that documenting and addressing racial disparities in veterans' benefits is unnecessary. They've decided that the problem either doesn't exist or doesn't matter enough to investigate. But the problem does exist, and it's documented. The 2023 GAO report that found approval rates for white veterans were 3% to 22% higher than Black veterans didn't go away when the Office of Equity Assurance was eliminated. The ongoing lawsuit with FOIA data showing systematic denials of Black veterans' claims didn't disappear. The decades of complaints from Black veterans about unequal treatment don't stop being real just because the administration shut down the office that was taking those complaints seriously. Paul Laber, a registered agent for a Louisiana veterans advocacy group, has spent years fighting for veterans' benefits. He's a veteran himself who fought for his own disability benefits and now helps others navigate the same broken system. His assessment of the VA was blunt, even before the Office of Equity Assurance was eliminated. They have been deliberately denied the term that best fits. The VA system is delay and deny, and hope they die. Delay and deny, and hope they die. That's the system Black veterans have been fighting against for decades. The Office of Equity Assurance was trying to change that system. It was investigating why claims were being denied. It was pushing for faster processing. It was holding decision-makers accountable. and now it's gone. And Laba's assessment is that that office was the only office created to try to equalize both benefits and healthcare systems. Without that office, Black veterans are back to fighting alone. They're back to filing claims that get denied at higher rates. They're back to appealing decisions without anyone investigating whether race played a role in the denial. They're back to a system that, according to its own data, treats them unequally and now has no dedicated office trying to fix that inequality. The historical context makes this even more painful. Black veterans have been fighting for equal treatment since the Revolutionary War. They've fought in every American conflict, often in segregated units, facing discrimination from the country they were defending. After World War I, Black veterans were denied their bonuses. After World War II, they were largely excluded from GI Bill benefits. After Vietnam, they faced discrimination in benefits processing. The pattern repeats across generations, and each time it takes years of advocacy, lawsuits, and pressure to force the VA to acknowledge the problem and take action. The Office of Equity Assurance represented progress, however insufficient. It represented the VA finally acknowledging that systemic discrimination in benefits processing was real and needed to be addressed. It represented a commitment to investigating disparities and trying to eliminate them. And the Trump administration eliminated it after less than 2 years of operation. 2 years. The office existed for less than 2 years before it was deemed no longer needed. Think about how long it takes to change systemic problems, how long it takes to alter ingrained processes, to retrain staff, to build new systems that ensure equal treatment. The GAO report covered disparities from 2010 to 2020, a full decade. The Center for Minority Veterans raised concerns 5 times over 5 years before the Office of Equity Assurance was even created. These are problems that took decades to develop and will take years to fix. But the Trump administration gave the office less than 2 years and then declared the problem solved. It's not solved. The disparities still exist. Black veterans are still being denied benefits at higher rates. The lawsuits are still pending. The complaints are still coming in. But the office investigating those complaints, documenting those disparities, and pushing for solutions is gone. This connects directly to everything else this administration is doing to erase Black military history and service. The Margraten Cemetery panels honoring Black soldiers who liberated Europe and buried the dead? Removed. The Pentagon web pages celebrating Black Medal of Honor recipients like Major General Charles Calvin Rogers? Deleted. The Arlington National Cemetery content about Black and female service members? Scrubbed. The Office of Equity Assurance investigating why Black veterans are denied benefits at higher rates? Eliminated. The pattern is clear. Whether it's erasing Black service members from historical recognition or shutting down offices that document ongoing discrimination, the Trump administration is systematically removing any acknowledgement that Black military personnel faced and continue to face different treatment. They're eliminating the evidence, silencing the investigators, and declaring the problems solved by the simple act of stopping anyone from talking about them. But declaring a problem solved doesn't make it solved. Black veterans will continue to have their disability claims denied at higher rates. They'll continue to face discrimination in benefits processing. They'll continue to struggle to get the care and compensation they earned. The only difference is that now there's no dedicated office investigating why this is happening or working to stop it. The 12 terminated employees knew what they were doing was important. That's why they're fighting their termination in court. They understood that without oversight, without investigation, without accountability, the discrimination continues unchecked. They understood that their work wasn't political. It was essential, and they're not going to let it die without a fight. But even if they win their lawsuit and get their jobs back, will the Office of Equity Assurance be restored? Will it have the authority and resources it needs to do its work? Or will it be restored in name only, stripped of power, unable to actually investigate and address the disparities it was created to eliminate? These are questions that Black veterans shouldn't have to ask. These are concerns that shouldn't exist. Veterans who served their country, who sacrificed for America shouldn't have to worry that they'll be treated differently in benefits processing based on their race. They shouldn't need a special office investigating why their claims are denied more often. They should just be treated fairly in the first place. But they're not treated fairly. The data proves it. The government's own reports confirm it. The lawsuits document it. And the Trump administration's response to this documented discrimination isn't to fix the system. It's to eliminate the office that was documenting the discrimination. That's not solving the problem. That's hiding the problem. That's deciding that the evidence of discrimination is more troublesome than the discrimination itself. That's choosing political ideology over the well-being of veterans who earned better treatment through their service. Mark Takano and Richard Warnock and Richard Brookshire are right to be alarmed. This will have devastating effects. Black veterans who are wrongly denied benefits will have no dedicated office to turn to. The disparities that the Office of Equity Assurance was slowly working to address will persist and likely worsen. The accountability that forced the VA to at least acknowledge these problems will disappear, and veterans who served their country will continue to face discrimination in receiving the benefits they earned. The Trump administration can claim this is about efficiency, about redirecting resources, about eliminating unnecessary bureaucracy. But the Office of Equity Assurance wasn't unnecessary. It was desperately needed. It was addressing a real problem that the government's own data proved existed. It was helping veterans who were being treated unfairly. And eliminating it doesn't redirect resources to help veterans. It eliminates the only office that was investigating why some veterans weren't being helped. Black veterans fought for this country. They served in every war, often in segregated units, facing discrimination while defending American freedom. They earned their benefits through their service and sacrifice. They shouldn't have to fight for equal treatment in receiving those benefits, but they do have to fight. And the Trump administration just eliminated the only federal office that was fighting with them. That's not efficiency. That's not eliminating waste. That's abandoning veterans who need help. That's choosing ideology over justice. That's deciding that political talking points about DEI matter more than ensuring veterans receive equal treatment. And it's a betrayal of the commitment America made to every person who put on the uniform and served. The Office of Equity Assurance is gone, but the disparities it was investigating are still there. The discrimination it was documenting is still happening. The black veterans it was helping are still being denied benefits at higher rates. The only difference is that now, no one in the federal government is tasked with making it stop.